call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bone. This one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we will take a look at the DC Direct Age Punchers version of Unmasked, Deathstroke, Slade, Wilson. Now in reality, this is just a repaint, one of the only benefits being the alternate unmasked head sculpt. Now aside from that, the alternate colors are really vibrant, a lot different than the original release. This is the third time that McFarlane has used this body. He also released that Defiant white version with this same book. Great book, great articulation. We'll take a quick look at it and see all the pros and cons. Now, he does look pretty unseen in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stat. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with a data file card. On the front, you do have an image of Deathstroke from the comics. A little bit different style than the figure we received, but you do get the gist of everything about Deathstroke, the Terminator. On the back, you do have some information. So we will hold on to this. Now, this is a reason why I've said this before. I pretty much consider any 7-inch DC figure released by McFarlane as part of the DC Multiverse in total, because you do have the page punchers, you do have the collector's edition, and you have your standard DC Multiverse. But they are all part of the same action figure universe, at least in my book. Now, he does come with a little bit of accessories. He comes with your standard Deathstroke sword. Now, this is different than the other versions we received with Deathstroke, so it's kind of nice to have one more different kind of blade to add to the collection. You do have this weird kind of, I want to say, martial arts weapon that has a sort of hook and then a moon blade on it with a spear at the end. Pretty kooky. We'll hold on to this and add it to the armory. Finally, you do get a bow staff. Pretty sure that the Defiant version came with a staff, but this is per standard with a Deathstroke figure. More likely than not, they do come with a staff. And of course, you have the alternate masked head version of Deathstroke, done in the same blue-orange color scheme. Now, I was tempted to review him with this head sculpt because this is pretty much how I'm going to have the figure displayed. But since the unmasked head sculpt is new, I did decide to go ahead and review him with the unmasked head sculpt. Now, pretty funny because for a long time I was searching for an unmasked head sculpt online. They pretty much run you about $20 to $30. And I was just never able to find one that I really liked. So I never pulled the trigger on that. And now it kind of worked out for itself because we do get an official McFarlane unmasked head sculpt, as well as an alternate color scheme and variant version of Deathstroke. Now, of course, you can go deep into the DC Comics lore. Wilson has been there for a long time. Deathstroke is a very popular DC Comics villain, anti-hero. He has taken on different forms throughout the years, more recently being a little bit more of an anti-hero. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. Now, this is going to be pretty quick because we have seen this body before. Although it is one of the better articulated, and even aesthetically, it is one of the better McFarlane figures. Multiverse ever released. Pretty nice to see it again with a different color scheme. Tons of texture, tons of sculpted lines to the costume. Not perfect. There are some things we could talk about that are negatives, but pretty close to being a great representation of Deathstroke in action figure form. I myself prefer almost the black, kind of dark gray and orange version from the original release, but I'm always open to have different versions of characters, so pretty cool. First impressions, as I said, very nice representation of Slade Wilson. Let's take a look at the head sculpt, which is one of the major points to buy this figure. Pretty nice head sculpt. You do got that beautifully sculpted hair, you got the goatee, and you got the eye patch, which is a quintessential part of Deathstroke's costume. Pretty nice. I am very happy with the unmasked head sculpt. Let's take a look at the articulation. He does look down, does look up very well. You got right to left. And of course, you could tilt his head for some attitude. Running quickly through the articulation, let's take a look at the waist. You do have side to side, that tilt-a-whirl waist swivel, lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You can twist him, get him in some cool poses. He does have a very generous forward crunch. And of course, he could lean back with the best of them. Taking a look at the shoulder, you got that socket and bushing shoulder joint, which gives you a lot of range, up and down, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, really clean looking sculpt, straighten them out, a lot of texture and lines in this figure. Down into a trigger hand, no weapons, but we do know pretty much the reason for that. And you got the 4 ways of articulation at the waist. On the other side, surprisingly, no trigger hand. You do have a C hand, a gripping hand, but it is very easily modified into a trigger hand. Look at that a little bit later. T-pose really smoothly, arms up above the head, down to the thighs. You got generous thigh swivel, which means you could move the boot from side to side without having a thigh cut. Kicks up really nice, kicks back as well. And don't be afraid, you get this range because the trunks are made out of rubber, and when you put them back, they go back to their original shape. Cock out the leg, he does have that McFarlane hip swivel, double jointed knees, up and down at the ankle, really smooth articulation, right to left, rocker, and of course, toe articulation. Now, before we go, a couple of things to add about the lower body. Of course, since the original release, there is no holster, although the straps are there for the holster. Later on, I guess they had to omit it because of the Warner Brothers mandate. And another interesting thing is no blade this time for the sheath that he has on his ankle. All the previous versions did have a blade. Now it's very easy to find any blade that have come with McFarlane figures, and you can just slide that right in there. That's not a problem. Take a look at them from the bottom. A little bit of tread with some identifying marks. Moving up the back, really nice sculpt work and detail going into the Deathstroke butt and into the back. So you do have that attachment, which is a grip to hold on to your sword in the back, which works really nicely. So all in all, seen it before, but is nice to have the head sculpt, and the color scheme is a pleasant difference. Now let's talk about a couple of things. First off, starting off, I'm not going to have this guy with that head sculpt. I am going to place the masked head sculpt on this one, and that is how I'm going to display him. Now you can go into all of the different poses he could get. He can hold firearms, he can hold his blade, He can hold the staff. Really fun figure to do some figure photography with. So all in all, I'm really pleased with that. Now, I did buy the original. I bought two. I kept one in package for my mint in package collection. And then I bought one to have a standard version on my shelf. I have them right here. Pretty clean looking version of Deathstroke. But I eventually ended up buying one more. Now on this one, I did make the trigger hand by cutting the finger, have him here with a nice firearm, and I added the holster on the side of his thigh, matched up the paint. Really happy with this one. I added a little bit of paint to the straps on his mask to give it that dual color scheme. But of course, this is one of my favorite figures in my collection, my custom tweaked Deathstroke with the working holster and the slight paint touch-ups. But eventually, for no particular reason, I found another one in the wild and I ended up picking that one up as well. And I really never had a purpose for him. I was going to add some modified weapons, and eventually I decided on not doing that. Maybe I'll still do that in the future. But what I am going to do is I'm going to use that unmasked head on this extra original release of Deathstroke, and that is going to be how I display him on my shelf. Once again, really fun figure, really cool to have the alternate colors and the alternate weapons. You can definitely add your own firearms and have fun doing figure photographies. So all in all, I'm really happy with it. Like I said, you get the unmasked head sculpt, you get an alternate costume color for Deathstroke with the mask version, and I'm really happy to add these two to my display shelf. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.